And we are live. It's Dr. J here. Hope everyone's having a fabulous Monday. What is going on in the neighborhood? Feel free to hit me up with your questions. We can dive in to your Q&A and talk about what is going on. So first off, Jack Attack writes in, what can be what can be the cause of reduced blood flow to the left arm? So one of the first things is more than likely it's to be something structural, some kind of a soft tissue impediment here in either the brachial plexus nerve root that comes out here. It could easily be subscap. It could be tight. I'm just trying to think here, those muscles. So it could be like the pecs, the pec muscles. The subscap kind of comes in here. The subscap kind of comes in behind the shoulder blade and goes here. So it'd probably be more pec, maybe bicep, any of the muscles coming in this area as the nerve root enters here and goes right through and down the brachial plexus. Something could be pinching it off. Unless that tingling or numbness is happening and that reduced blood flow is happening down here, then I would look something in the forearm. So look just above the area where that reduced blood flow starts. I would find a good massage therapist or active release chiropractor that can work on the muscles in this area, whether it's pec, delt, it could be lat underneath, subscap, deltoid, bicep, short bicep head. Any of those could be reasonable as the root cause. All right, good. Best remedy to beat hypothyroidism? Well, that's a loaded question because it's like that'd be like a 2-hour long podcast. Or actually, how about my book that's basically done? The Thyroid Reset would be the answer to that one. But in general, autoimmunity is number one, and most of the time gluten's a big part. Number two is going to be nutrition, nutrient-dense, anti-inflammatory, low-toxin foods. Number three, being able to have good digestion and be infection-free. And then after that will be good hormone health, whether it's adrenals, female hormones as well, or male hormones, all really important. And then, of course, having good detoxification. Detoxification is important because the same enzymes that activate your thyroid hormone come from your detoxification system. They're selenium-based. When treating H. pylori with mastic gum, will it kill good bacteria? I mean, it will definitely kill some good bacteria. It's going to be a lot more selective, and there typically are going to be antioxidants and things that are very helpful to deal with the oxidative stress that may happen as a result. Great question on that. When we use a lot of good, healthy herbs to like knock down some of these dysbiotic bacteria or knock down infections, they can go after some of the good stuff for sure. They're not 100% specific, but they're going to be more selective towards the bad. They're going to have antioxidants in it. They aren't going to stress out the mitochondria as much. They will definitely be better than the antibiotics. Also, they have a way of inhibiting the efflux pumps, which are the pumps that essentially bail the antibiotic out of the canoe, so to speak, and that allows the canoe to kind of, let's just say, sink a little bit faster. So imagine each bacteria is a canoe. If it takes on water faster, you can sink the canoe. Efflux pumps are essentially what bails the water out of the bacterial canoe and allows them to stay afloat longer. So these herbs have a way of inhibiting efflux pumps, which are really helpful. Merritt Rice writes in, is it possible to fix hiatal hernia and acid reflux? Yeah, the question is the hiatal hernia cause or effect? I find hiatal hernia is an effect a lot of times of what's happening in the stomach area. Use inflammation from poor digestion, from food allergens, from maybe an H. pylori infection, and that's obviously causing food and it's causing the esophagus to not close down appropriately. Hiatal hernia is nothing more than the stomach popping up above the diaphragm, right? So you have esophagus, stomach, you have the diaphragm like this, so it's right on top of the stomach, and then when that stomach starts to pop through, that's a hiatal hernia. There's techniques where you can sip water and then you can hold your arms up and drop down on your heels like this. So, boom, like that. And that can help. Or a good chiropractor. Breathe in. That lowers the diaphragm. That allows you to get your fingers underneath the diaphragm. And then out. So when you breathe out, it pulls the diaphragm back up. So breathing in lowers the diaphragm, allows you to get your fingers like this. And then when you breathe out, it pulls the diaphragm back up. So it allows you to kind of pull it down and break it loose. Excellent. Is there a book you recommend that shows what herb interacts with prescription drugs? I think there's something called Hippocrates. Hippocrates was an app that was used to look at different drug interactions. I think there are some textbooks out there. It would just involve a good Google search. I know there's a couple of things that are out there in that realm. I think Mosby's looks at one that does nutrient depletion from drugs, but there's probably a couple of books out there on that topic. Drug herb interaction checker. Yeah, so drug interaction checker. So this would be WebMD, and then that is going to be / interaction - checker, and it looks at the medications and the herbs. So that would be your best one. Excellent. Is there any functional medicine cure for male pattern baldness? It depends. There's some genetic predispositions that can accelerate it, make it happen more severe or sooner in life. That's number one. So there's definitely things. I mean, if that is the case and it's really strongly genetic, there may not be as much you can do outside of decrease the onset, when it occurs, and how much. But you can always decrease it for sure. The question is how much and to what degree. And then number two, there are people that are going to be predisposed to it that may not have the strong genetic connection, but they may have a poor diet, they may have poor digestion, they may not be getting enough good nutrition in, their hormones may be off, and that may be an effect as well. So I've done podcasts on this topic, but make sure we have make sure DHT isn't going too high, right? You can look at a Dutch test, look at your DHT levels, dihydrotestosterone. You can take a look at cortisol, make sure that's not too high or too low. Take a look at thyroid hormone, make sure it's not too high or too low. Make sure adequate digestion's there. Make sure there's no infections. Make sure adequate selenium. Make sure you have good glutathione levels. These are all good starting points, but it's a much longer conversation. So I've done videos and podcasts on the topic. Take a look at that. And you want to work with a good, solid functional medicine doctor that can dive in deep at looking what the root causes for these things are. And there's multifactorial. Also, gluten's a big one. Autoimmunity is a big one. So start there, have the foundation paleo template, work on the gut, work on the hormones, work on the digestion, and then work on the nutritional deficiencies. Mindy writes in, do you have insight on causes and treatments for low blood pressure during third trimester? In most women, with negative side effects, they're going to have preeclampsia, which will cause high blood pressure. Big thing I would do is make sure carbs are good. Make sure we're not going like ultra low carb. That can be maybe dropping blood pressure. There could be adrenal health issues. So I'd make sure you're getting adequate levels of good quality minerals like Redmond's real salt. Maybe add in some extra potassium as well, just to ensure minerals are good enough. Because if your adrenals are low, you could be peeing minerals out. So I'd make sure minerals are good and that is dialed in, and that's not driving your blood pressure lower. That's the first good step. Obviously, make sure you're eating enough and make sure the carbs are dialed in too. Tom writes in, supplements, amino acids, vitamins. Is there a reasonably priced test to determine deficiencies? So there's a couple that are out there. SpectraCell is a good one. That's an intercellular lymphocytic stimulation test. I also use the Ion Panel, which is great. It does a kind of a Nutri-Eval organic acid combination. Organic acids are nice. Nutri-Eval. These are really great tests. If you go to justinhealth.com/shop, I have some there that you could take a look at. Those are good. You got to look at the gut first. Many people are myopically focused on nutrition, but they have a lot of gut malabsorption. Got to have the hierarchy in how you address that. Mo writes in, what's your take on heme iron supplements? Is there a benefit to them over non-heme iron supplements for non-meat eaters? So if you're talking about non-heme, that's going to be a plant-based iron. It's not going to be as good. Heme-based iron sources from animal products will always bump up your iron better. So like a good liver glandular is going to be a great source of iron. Someone that's vegan or vegetarian, if you can convince them to take a heme-based iron, you'll always be able to increase iron better. If you see an anemic pattern, low iron, low ferritin, low iron saturation, low hematocrit, low hemoglobin, low RBCs, you're not going to be able to carry oxygen appropriately, right? Low oxygen carrying means you're not going to have good cellular metabolism, right? Mitochondria function, you need oxygen for it to work. So one of the major side effects you're going to see with anemia is poor circulation, poor energy, right? Paler skin, because you're not carrying those good nutrients. So good heme-based iron, or we can always do something like a iron bisglycinate, iron bound to a molecule of glycine, works really good too. I have one called Iron Supreme that has that in it. That's great. Delty writes in, what causes high prolactin? Could this cause low libido? So if you look at prolactin, that's the hormone that causes you to lactate. Men can have that same issue too. Prolactin will go high when dopamine's low. So dopamine is the brake pedal on prolactin. When prolactin goes high, it causes a woman's cycle to go off and throw off. It can cause men to have extra gestational, kind of or extra breast tissue, so to speak. So the big thing is look at the stress, look at the adrenals. You can add an extra support to help bump up dopamine. So like tyrosine support, mucuna purines, these kind of things are great for bumping up dopamine, and get your adrenals dialed in. So good nutrition, stable blood sugar, get the inflammation under control. Running a good adrenal test can be a good first start as well. And women that have prolactin issues also have progesterone issues as well. So it's good to look at the hormones across the board. My man, are there specific tests to diagnose autoimmune disease? I'm sure I have autoimmune antibody, but don't know how to find it. So if you're looking for autoimmune antibodies, the Array 5 is a great one to look across the board for autoimmune antibodies, but it may not tell you the root cause. It'll tell you a lot of the effect, not necessarily the cause. Let me check out here, Facebook. Thanks a lot, Seville. Appreciate it, man. Any other questions, y'all? Let me know. When you're dealing with autoimmunity, you could have autoimmune for myelin. That's MS, right? You could have autoimmune for the midbrain substantia nigra. That's Parkinson's. You could have autoimmune for the beta cells of the pancreas. That's type 1 diabetes. You could have autoimmunity for the microvilli in the small intestine. That's celiac. So, or you could have autoimmunity for the thyroid tissue. That's Hashimoto's. So depending on what tissue gets destroyed is essentially where the diagnosis leads to. Now the question becomes, what's the root cause? Now, one of the major root causes for autoimmunity is going to be gut permeability. So leaky gut allows undigested bacteria and foods and gluten molecules or casein molecules to get into the bloodstream. The immune system gets exacerbated, and then there's a case of kind of mistaken identity, right? Someone calls in a crime for someone driving a black Honda Civic, and you drive a black Honda Civic. Hey, you're not the criminal, but mistaken identity, right? So you kind of have that molecular mimicry thing happen, and then other proteins that are on other tissues in the body look similar to that protein over here that went into the gut, and then you can have that cross molecular mimicry thing happening. So that's a common mechanism right there. So that's why getting the gut fixed, we go to the 6 R's, remove the bad foods, replace the enzymes and acids, repair the gut lining and the hormones, remove the infections, repopulate, reinoculate gut bacteria, retest. So is a process on how we do it, but food and digestion and stress will be the first step. I'm glad you liked the explanation on that. Wonderful. Hey, Desiree, hope you're doing good. I've been experimenting with chickpeas. I get them dried and soaked and cooked in Instant Pot. Will cooking that way remove most of the anti-nutrients? Yeah, they would definitely help remove a lot of the anti-nutrients by cooking them like that. The more you can soak them or cook them like that in an Instant Pot or a crock pot would definitely remove any of the extra, or decrease any of the extra phytates or oxalates or anti-nutrients, which are, essentially things that are going to bind up nutrition and also potentially create gut inflammation. So I think as long as you can tolerate the chickpeas and you aren't getting gassy or bloaty with them, I think putting them into the kind of the dietary rotation is probably fine. I think it's great. Great question. Mo writes in, I take Redmond's real salt and licorice root for adrenal insufficiency. Any other supplementation or nutrition that you recommend? Well, extra vitamin C will be great too. Vitamin C gets used up by the adrenals a lot, so vitamin C is great. Depending on what your adrenal profile says, we may throw in extra adrenal tissue or adrenal glandular tissue. Glandulars actually have nutrition in them, so it can be really specific to the gland. You may get a tiny amount of bioidentical hormone in it, which could support the adrenals too. It really just depends upon what your pattern is or says. So it's nice to be able to see that. And then, of course, B5 is going to be great. Pantothenic acid, B6 is going to be great. A good B complex. And then, of course, my favorite adaptogens I recommend based on what the adrenal test says. So ashwagandha is my fave. Ginseng's my fave. For women, I like maca a lot. That's great. Seville writes in, my man, how you doing, brother? What are your thoughts on keto diet, short-term and long-term sustainability? I think keto diet's great. I love keto template. So all keto diet is you're just adjusting your macronutrients in a way to allow your body to generate more ketones for fuel. So typically you got to dip your carbs below about 10%, and then you got to also ratchet your fats to about 65% or up. And then protein typically stays between 15 to 25% in general, unless you're doing a lot of extra protein powder. So Carbs about 10 or less percent, protein 15 to 25, fats will be about 65 to 85. Totally sustainable. On a keto template, you can do, for the most part, unlimited amounts of non-starchy vegetables, broccoli, kale. The key thing on keto is you got to get enough potassium and minerals. So if you're getting 6 servings of green vegetables a day, you're set. Get 1 full avocado. There's 20% of your potassium. You can also sip bone broth or add extra minerals in there as well, like a Redmond's real salt or good quality Celtic Himalayan salt. But if you do that, if you're at 6 or 7 servings of green vegetables a day, you could probably do even a full handful of good berries. That'd be fine as well, a full avocado. And then get your full fats from high quality animal-based sources, right? Grass-fed, organic. You could do plant-based, like avocados, great. You could do some nuts and seeds. If you're doing any meats, make sure they're, pasture-fed, organic, so you get more omega-3, less of the omega-6. And then, of course, egg yolks and eggs are going to be great. Butter, ghee, avocado oil, olive oil is going to be great, and any of your good animal fats. But totally sustainable. The key thing is high fat. People screw up on the keto template is they go low carbs, they go a good amount of protein, then the fat's a little bit low, like fat's at 40%. And they're kind of screwing up the percentage. So keep the fat up, and you will be set and you will be sustained, because when you eat enough fat, ketones are very appetite suppressing. So you're not as hungry, you don't have as much cravings, you're going to feel better, your mood will be better. And then if the fat's up there and you have a lot of nutrition coming in through your vegetables, your micronutrients, your potassium, your magnesium's good, then you're set. The only X factor is getting the potassium and magnesium up there. So you can always do a new salt, which is the potassium citrate, to get extra minerals. You can do the Redmond's real salt. Those are all great ways. Awesome question. All right, a couple other questions that popped in. My BBT has always been between 96 to 97.4. I imagine that's basal body temperature. TSH 0.58, T4 1.1, T3 2.9. RT3 is 9, antibodies less than 1. My ND put me on 3/4 grain of NatureThroid, but it made me feel awful after a couple of weeks. Yeah, with that, I would not put you on any thyroid support at all. I would only use nutrition, and I would support the adrenals first. Your thyroid's way too close to normal. I would not give any hormones at all. I would work on the nutrition and the adrenals before I touched anything. So my goal for T3 is 3 or above. You're at 2.9. You're too close. I wouldn't give any hormones. And if I did give you a hormone, it'd be a 1/4 grain, not 3/4, right? 1/4 grain, I think, is 16.5 milligrams. 3/4 is going to be like 50 and change. All right. Could I have low... I already answered that question. Look at the adrenals and the nutrients first. Nootropics for stroke, 10-26-19 stroke. So first thing is I would get hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapy. Really increase the oxygen in the blood, really help with the inflammation. Big things I would do for brain is citrullocholine or alpha glycerylphosphocoline's great. I would do higher dose fish oil. I would do higher dose curcumin. I would up glutathione. I would do all these good natural antioxidants, these things to help improve blood flow. So blood flow things could be systemic-based enzymes taken away from food. They could be fish oil. It could be extra ginkgo and acetylcholine herbs like huperzine. These are all really good things that you can do. Still burping a lot and have vertical ridging on the nails despite taking HCl and enzymes. Have tried Massica, Manuka, DGL, and oregano oil. Diet has been dialed in as well. What else could I try? Well, stop trying stuff. Do a little, instead of guessing, let's assess. So let's do some gut testing to see what else could be going on with the gut. Maybe there's some deeper infections that need to be looked at. Tom writes in, do you have an opinion or are you a fan of Organifi green juice? I'd have to know what the ingredients are. But if it's high quality greens without the added sugar from a lot of the fruit, right? Fruit juice, raw fruits juiced have a ton of sugar. If you're going to consume fruit, consume the whole fruit because of the fiber slows it down. If you're going to do juices, make sure you keep it just to vegetables because the sugar will be like 7 or 8 grams, but it's a lot better than 20 or 30 when you deal with fruit. Okay, and plus you don't get any more nutrition out of fruit than the vegetables, so you still have a ton of potassium, which is great. Movies tell us not to drink ocean water, dehydration. Life raft movies. Yep. You gotta add Redmond's or Himalayan sea salt to my morning water. Well, it all comes down to the total dissolved solids. So you got like a 200 or so with the total dissolved solid. If you go look at the percent of salt in seawater, it's going to be much, much higher, okay? So that's really important. It's all about the percent. So if you look at that, the percent of salt in ocean water is much, much, much higher. 3.5% of the water is actually sea salt. So when you deal with like pinching it in your water like that, it's much less, okay? Much, much less. If you look at it, it'd be probably a fraction of a percent. And when you're doing it throughout the day, you shouldn't even be able to taste it. I do a little bit more of a hit morning and last half of the day, and then I'll put a little bit of salt in my water during the day, but I do enough so I can't taste it. Great question, though. Yeah, it's always good to use reason and logic, with some of these questions, because it does seem counterintuitive, but it's all about the amount. Just like people die of hyponatremia come marathon time, they drink too much water, they dilute their minerals, they have a heart attack. Well, doesn't mean water's bad. It's all about the dose. Christian writes in, any recommendations on how to gain back weight and muscle? I had candida my whole life and was overweight and can't gain weight back. So first thing is you're going to need more nutrition. You're going to need more calories. If you go look at who's the number 99 for the Houston Texans, J.J. Watts. I saw a video on him. He eats 9,000 calories in 7 meals a day. He literally eats every 2 hours. So to maintain good size, you have to have a lot of excess calories and ideally calories with nutrition. You don't want a Michael Phelps diet where you're eating 9,000 calories of crap food. Get 9,000 calories of nutrient-dense good foods. Depending on how active you are, you may need more carbs, number one, depending on how active you are. So figure out kind of what your activity tolerance is. And then, of course, you're going to need probably at least an additional 500 to 1,000 calories above your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. And, of course, a good resistance training routine is going to be key. Are red awoken gums a sign of something systemic like SIBO? Or there could be inflammation in your mouth. There could be some biofilm issue. Hard to say. Fix your diet. I like topical CoQ10. I use the Revitin toothpaste. justinhealth.com/shop. Look under Revitin toothpaste there. We'll put the link down below. Revitin is great. High in CoQ10. It's wonderful. Oh, Mindy, you're totally welcome. Thank you. Keto Space writes in, are chronotypes used by Michael Bruce real or just a construct? Are you night owl? People have night owls, just people who have abnormal cortisol rhythm patterns. Yeah, I mean, people will have more abnormal cortisol rhythm that stay up night. They tend to have that little popping cortisol the last half of the day or the last 25% of the day that would cause them to be a little bit more energized. So yeah, keep your cortisol rhythm in control, good sleep hygiene, keep the lights out, blue blocking glasses, magnesium, relaxing adaptogens at night, and calm your cortisol down. How long can it take to heal leaky gut? Anywhere between 6 months to 2 years. Thank you for these sessions. You are welcome. What brand of CBD do you recommend, and what should I look for in a good reputable brand? So I use a company out of Colorado called Bluebird Botanicals. Organic, high quality. They're not using a whole bunch of pesticides or nasty solvents to extract the cannabinoids from the CBD. You want to look at quality and you want to look at the extraction process. If you want to get the one I use, justinhealth.com, and click on shop. And actually you'll have to email my office. I don't have it online. office@justinhealth.com. Email us. And I use the Signature Series 6X. It's very expensive, but it's the most potent, high-quality CBD on the market. And you can email at office@justinhealth.com for that. You're all about common sense. Love it. Thanks. Thank you, Stefano. Appreciate it. During cold and cough season, is intake of vitamin C, zinc, and protein-rich food or vitamin D enough to get well? It's going to be a good start. High-dose vitamin C just below bowel tolerance. You can always up zinc to 50 milligrams or so a day. Zinc lozenges are great. Protein-rich food. You could also add an extra protein from collagen and bone broth is great. I also do extra andrographis, extra astragalus. I'll do medicinal mushrooms. I have my reishi over here. And I will also do, let's see here. Basically, I have a product called Amino Supreme that has a lot of those herbs in there. I'll do that up to 12 caps a day when I'm acute, 3 to 6 when I'm in the middle. And then if I'm like going somewhere or traveling, I'll take a little bit of support as well. Jack writes in, still on the mend from gastritis. Bone broth has been causing me reflux and been having issues digesting animal protein with even an enzyme. Any diet staple you recommend for calorie-dense foods for me? So you could just try putting your food in a crock pot or an Instapot and just eat the highest amount of protein you can handle without a problem. So if it's a bite of protein, it's a bite. If not, you can switch to kind of collagen peptides, see if that fixes the issue. It could be a histamine thing too, so it's hard to say. I'd really just kind of simplify your diet, maybe reduce some of the histamines and start off with like a lower FODMAP, highest amount of protein food you can do, rely a little bit more on good fats, whether it's from animal products or coconut oil. Start with like a kind of a GAPS intro and kind of work your way up. All right, excellent. Desiree writes in, any thoughts on moringa powder to add into my green smoothie? On the back of the label as a warning is caused harm to reproductive system. No, ignore that. That's just BS by California. It's called Prop 65. California required any company that has a product that may have trace amounts of a heavy metal to have that label on it. The problem is they don't give you the comparison, meaning if you were to put, let's say, organic spinach in a capsule and sell it in California, you'd probably have to put that label on the organic spinach as well. So the problem is the amounts are minuscule, and when you compare it to food, a lot of times it's less than what may actually be in a food. So as soon as you put it in a capsule, the state of California has that Prop 65, which is a little bit misleading because it freaks everyone out. But you got to look at it relative to what you're getting in normal, healthy food. Great question, though. All right, y'all, I'm going to get another video done here. I got it on my dry erase board. I'm going to get it up here hopefully tomorrow morning. I did a podcast this morning as well. I'm going to post that up here in a few minutes. It was on sleep and mold and mycotoxins, so take a look at that podcast. Y'all should enjoy it. Again, this is Dr. J signing off. Hope you guys had a great session here today. Put your comments below. Sharing is caring. And if you want to dive in and work deeper with me, feel free and reach out in the links below. Y'all have a phenomenal day, and I'll be back probably tomorrow. You guys take care. Bye, y'all.